Welcome to the virtual YLA Challah Bake with our YLA co-chair, Rachel Shnay. We're so excited that you could join us. And even though we're all sheltering in place or staying at home, we can still make challah and we can still learn how. So we're really excited that you're all here, and Rachie is going to not only show us how to make challah with her, but she's going to teach us about the symbolism of challah and how the act of making challah can be taken from a physical experience to a spiritual one. So I know I'm very excited. And also, while obviously this takes, this is a long process, and your finished product will most likely be after we have finished, we would love for you to send us photos. So you can send us on either by email or tag us on either Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Our username for American Society for Yad Vashem on Facebook, and everywhere else on Instagram, we are at Yad Vashem USA. So, and you can see it on the email I sent you. I'm Jill, by the way. I'm the Director of Young Leadership and Social Media for the American Society for Yad Vashem. And I'm so honored to always be working with Rachie, and welcome. Rachie, take it away.
You can also tag Rachie Shnay. I want to see everything that you post.
And we'll share it.
Not baking today, then at least you guys can watch and just enjoy and have fun. And I'm going to teach you a lot about the meaning of challah and behind the scenes. But before I start speaking at all, I just want to get the yeast proofing. So everyone who's watching, I don't know, when people show me their kitchens, I want to see what you guys are doing. No, my sister's here. But basically the first step that I always want to just get going, and then I'll do other things and get the rest ready, is basically cut 4 packets of the dry yeast that you have. I always end up using Fleischmann's, but these days it's really hard to find yeast. Everyone decided that they're bakers during the pandemic. So whatever dry yeast you can find, like that, active dry yeast. So I cut 4 packets into the bowl. Always easier to just use a scissor, because when you try to rip them, it flies everywhere and makes such a mess. So you just cut the 4 packets into the bowl. And then, I'll just move it, hold on. I know, but like this, 4 packets like this. Then might take 5 cups of warm water. I just like to get this step going because it takes a while sometimes for the yeast to proof. So you do 5 cups of warm water. Get a little more. And then this is where we put our sugar. So we're going to put 1.5 cups of sugar. So again, we had 4 packets of dry yeast, 5 cups of warm water, and 1.5 cups of sugar. And I just use a fork or a spoon or whatever you have to just quickly give it a little toss. And then what I do to speed up the process for the proofing of the yeast, and what it means to proof the yeast is when the yeast starts to bubble and foam at the top. That's when you know it's ready to put into your challah mixture. So what I do is I actually turn the oven on and I open the oven door, because a lot of heat comes out, and I just leave it on the open oven door. And my sister will go put that there. And that's basically how you get it to proof quicker, and you don't have to wait so long. And honestly, for me, my yeast always proofs the best when it's heated. I don't know, other people do it differently. So that's one thing I'm going to discuss about challah, is that everyone has their own ways of doing it, and everyone has their own technique and their own recipe, and everyone's challah comes out different. I think my challah comes out different every week. So it's always unique to the person and to the time and whatever it is. So while that's being prepared, I usually honestly let it proof for about 10 to 20 minutes, anywhere between 10 and 20 minutes. So once it starts to foam, which we'll see, actually you could just put it in the oven so it goes faster. Sometimes I even just put it in the oven, but leave the door open so that it's not it just goes faster. And you'll see, you'll take a fork, or you can even put your finger in it, and you see that it's literally foaming at the top. So while that's going, I hope you guys are all in that step. If anyone has any questions up until now, please let me know. Let me see how this is. you can raise your hand or you can speak up.
Yeah, there's a raise your hand function, or if you want to type it in the chat and I'll be looking at it so I can share it.
Unmute themselves or no?
What? Yeah, they can unmute themselves.
You guys can unmute yourselves, it's fine. Okay.
You couldn't, but now you can. Now you can.
Now you guys can unmute yourselves. So if you have any questions or want to speak, or let me see your faces. I only see like, oh, Jan Sadow. Wait, you have to unmute yourself. Hold on, I can unmute you. No, I can't. Jill? Jan wants to talk. Can they unmute themselves?
Yeah, I got it. So can you hear me? Is it good?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're literally putting the bowl in the oven, or just allowing the heat to come out and putting it on the door of the oven?
Time you have. I honestly put it on the door of the oven, but
yeah,
it depends how strong your oven is or how hot it is. Like, I kind of just, sometimes I want it to just go faster. So if you're impatient, which is a good thing when it comes to challah, but I usually open up the door. Like, it depends which oven.
what temperature do you do it at?
350 or 370.
Okay, that's what I have it at. Okay, thank you.
And you're good with the steps for now?
Yep.
So, a little bit about the importance of challah. Basically, this recipe that I'm using is actually a variation of this famous Rebbitzin who passed away, Rebbitzin Kanievsky in Jerusalem. And she put her recipe out in this big cookbook called the Beis Yaakov Cookbook. And she wrote this little letter to everyone saying, like, if you use her recipe, like, your home will be filled with blessing and bracha and all these amazing things. So this is a variation of her recipe. It's basically the same. I just switched a few things up. But this recipe actually does not contain any eggs. The only time you use an egg is for the egg wash on top. So it's great if somebody has allergies to eggs, but it's a water challah, but it doesn't necessarily taste like one. Like you guys will see later, it's a very delicious, like, airy, fluffy challah, and with the sweet crumb topping that I'm known for, that everyone loves on top, that really makes it taste like a delicious cake. It's really, really good. So I kind of feel a connection to this recipe because I actually met Rebbitzin Kanievsky and she gave me a bracha, so I always feel like she's a very holy, amazing woman, so I like to make her recipe. But okay, so let's start with the different ingredients. So yeast, basically I'm going to teach you guys the spiritual meaning behind every ingredient that we use. There's a lot of holiness and bracha that goes into, somebody chat. Works, so that's right. So there's a lot of holiness that goes into making challah, and from the beginning to the end, it's a very holy time, and you can be thinking and praying for whatever you want. So when you're making challah, try to not be stressed and angry and like yelling and rush and just enjoy it, because I mean, it is a very therapeutic thing to bake in general. There is such thing as bread therapy, like it's an actual thing. I learned about it in college, and people really, it's a very healing thing to bake bread, and the whole process of it. You know, bread is like the most essential thing in our lives of food, and it's a really amazing thing. So first of all, challah is one of the 3 mitzvahs that a Jewish woman is obligated to do. So we actually only have 3 mitzvahs that a Jewish woman has to do, and the acronym is the name Chana, Chet Nun Hey. So Chet stands for challah. That's the first one. Nun is nida, which is taharat mishpacha, which is like keeping the laws of family purity, going to the mikvah. And Hey is hadlikat neirot, which is lighting Shabbos candles and like chagim candles and holiday candles. So those are the 3 mitzvahs. That's Chana, Chet Nun Hey. Challah, going to the mikvah, and lighting Shabbat candles. And during those 3, doing those 3 mitzvahs in your home and when you're at the mikvah, you have something called Eitz Ratzon, which is like a direct channel to talk to Hashem and to daven for whatever you want. And it's really such a holy, amazing, amazing time. And I know I feel it whenever I'm like making the bracha well, I haven't gone to the mikvah yet because I'm not married, but doing those 2 things is when you really get to like daven for anything. So you want to pray for people who are sick. You want to pray for whatever is on your mind, whatever you need, for somebody to get married, for someone to have kids, for parnasa, for making money, for whatever it is. that's your time to really directly dive into Hashem. Obviously, you can talk to him all day long, whatever you want in any language, but this is a time where it's like specifically said in the Torah that these 3 times you really have a direct channel straight to Hashem. So I think it's really cool because these 3 mitzvahs are mitzvahs that every single one of our Jewish ancestors was doing, and that's all the way back to Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, like our 4 imahot, our 4 matriarchs. So it's like such a crazy thing to think that on Thursday afternoon, like they were doing the same thing that we're doing, and well, Thursday night, Friday morning, like we're all getting ready for Shabbos, we're making challah, and it really just brings in that amazing, like historical and spiritual and beautiful energy into your house. And that's why really I love challah. And once you start making it, you realize that it's really not so hard and it's kind of addicting. So also like store-bought challah doesn't really compare. So then also during these 3 mitzvahs, we basically were fulfilling the obligation that Hashem asked us. So in return, he's obligated, told us that he'll fulfill whatever our needs are and what we want. So bread is the most basic food needed to live, and that's why it has its own category of a bracha. Like when you think of food brachas, there's brachas for all different kinds of fruits and vegetables and everything, but bread has its own. And it's because it's really something that nourishes our physical and spiritual needs. And on Shabbos, on Shabbat, we use the bread to elevate the whole evening. So we use the wine and the bread. So what's so amazing about challah is that we're actually turning something so mundane like flour and sugar and oil, and we're making it something so basic into something so spiritual. And that's a theme in Judaism, is taking anything, like literally anything. Like you could say, like this bracelet, it's just a bracelet, like it's just gold and diamonds, but when you give it to a bride on her wedding day, it elevates it and makes it into making the bride happy. When you when you wear it for Shabbos, you're making Shabbos extra holy because you're wearing something nice and beautiful. So you can turn any single object, and that's really one of our purposes in life as Jews, is that we try to take anything, money, we give it to tzedakah. All these things we can turn into something spiritual, make them into mitzvahs that we're doing. So that's what we're doing with challah. We're making this dough into something that we're gonna make a bracha over, and we're gonna wash for, and we're gonna eat, and it's just gonna be nourishing, and so on. So that's what our lives are meant to do. And a woman named Sarah Bremen once said that the secret behind every good challah is not the pastry, but the prayer behind each ingredient. So I'm just going to go over the ingredients, and we'll check on our yeast, but I'm pretty sure if you guys look at them, they're probably not quite there yet. So you want to ensure that the ingredients you buy is good ingredients, because we're making something really holy and amazing. I've said this before many times, but I like to use bread flour, King Arthur bread flour. Of course, if you don't have it, it's okay. You can use all-purpose flour. I found that once I switched to bread flour, it really made a difference. But it's also when you're doing challah, it's a lot of the law of attraction. Like whatever you're putting into it, you're going to get out. And that's a lot with cooking and baking. Like when you put your love and like all your efforts and your kavanah, like all this holiness into it, like you're going to feel it in the bread. You're going to feel it in the outcome. So now we're just going to go into the yeast. Basically, what's our intention behind the yeast? We ask Hashem that our mitzvahs should rise double in size. So just as the yeast is rising and rising and rising, so too our mitzvahs should rise within us, and the brachas in our home should also rise. But what do we need to make the yeast rise? We need sugar. So the sugar, what does the sugar represent? The sugar represents love and happiness, and that's what we have to put into the yeast, like all of our happy, positive energy into it, in order for it to expand. So that's exactly in our lives. Like we have to, show people that we're positive, happy, like have faith, that we're putting goodness into the world. So too, if we do all those things, like the blessings that come to us should be double in size. Okay, so the sugar, again, that represents the sweetness that we should always try to emulate. Obviously, everyone has their bad days, and we'll talk about that when it comes to the salt. And then the water, what does the water symbolize? The water is such a holy thing in Judaism, because going to the mikveh is just pure rainwater. So water in Judaism represents like bracha and abundance, and it's shifchi kamayim libech, like your water should be pouring out of you like of your heart. Like it should be like coming out with an abundance without stopping. And so when we dive into Hashem, the Torah and the mitzvah should flow like water in our home, just like the water flows in rivers and oceans. So we pour 5 cups of water into the yeast and sugar, and we should never be stingy with the water. Like that's something that we've learned, that water is a source of life. So, you know, you're always giving people water and adding more water, and water should be constantly flowing within the home, just like the bracha should. I think we're gonna see if I can, let me check on the yeast mixture, 1 second. Okay, so it's actually looking pretty good. I'll show you guys my yeast mixture. You see how I can go like this with my finger, and you see that, like you make a little streak in there, and you see the bubbles and that. It could go longer, but how does yours look? Like that usually? I'm just gonna add my sister's also like a challah. That's my sister.
Hi. Looks really good.
Okay.
I also want to make sure there's no like unproofed yeast on the bottom.
Yeah, so sometimes it gets like clumpy, so you want to just
What happens if it's clumpy?
I would make
you just mix it around and put it back.
Oh.
Well, we'll wait a little bit longer. My other sister's here too. The sister fest. You can come say hi. Okay. So the other thing that I start doing, the other thing that I start doing is while the yeast is proofing, I want to just prepare the main bowl that the flour is going to be in. This is a ginormous bowl. I promise you, a bowl is never big enough for challah. I think I ordered this one on Amazon. I can't live without it. It really is unfortunate if you want to make challah and you only have. You look at this average size mixing bowl, and this is the challah bowl that I use. I don't even know what it is. Like I have to look it up. Is it like quartz or something? I have no idea, but it makes a world of a difference.
You make a huge mess.
A huge bowl. If you don't have a huge bowl, everything's gonna come out. It's so stressful, and then you try to split it between bowls. It's happened to me. Honestly, if you don't have a huge bowl, you're better off making it in like a huge square tin, right? Yeah. It just like in a small bowl, it's not even worth it. Maybe in a pot. I don't even know. I don't know. You really just need a big bowl. I think I see Jan has a big bowl. That's a good size. Okay, so let's start from what's going on over here. What I like to do is I like to pour about half of the entire 5-pound bag. You need to use 5 pounds of challah in order to make the bracha for hafrashat challah. So people always ask me, I only want to make 4 challahs, so can I half the recipe? I'm like, I'm not the person to ask. I have no idea how to do that, because you can't make a bracha. You can do it, but I've never halved the recipe. I don't know how to half a recipe. I always tell people, just make the whole thing and freeze the challahs. Like it's not worth it to half it, and then I don't know what's gonna happen. So basically, you put, and I also love to give people challah. It's such a nice gift. Give it to your doorman, give it to your neighbors, give it to your whatever, who have friends. Okay, so I put about half of the bag in here, and then we're gonna take 1.5 tablespoons of salt. And you just wanna like, just mix it in there, mix it together. And then we're gonna prepare the 1.5 cups of oil. And I like to use safflower oil. You can use any vegetable oil. I love safflower oil. Do not use olive oil. Just like in baking, you can't substitute olive oil for any vegetable oil. It will taste horrible. Olive oil is really only for cooking. So I like safflower oil. Again, you can use canola, vegetable, whatever oil you want. So I put except for olive, I put 1.5 cups of oil in here. And then a trick that my sister actually told me about last year, which really enhanced my challah, was to add about 1 tablespoon of vanilla. So I add 1 tablespoon of vanilla to the oil, and it really tastes amazing. It does make a difference. You don't have it, it's not the end of the world. I didn't use it for a long time, but it does make a big difference. Wow, perfect, 1 tablespoon left, okay. And then just give it like a quick mix because you want it to get incorporated into the oil. So it should look like this. Kind of like you see the little bubbles of vanilla in there. Okay. Left. So while you're waiting for, how does your yeast look, you guys? Are you ready to, is it proofed? Should we wait a little longer? You can unmute yourselves if you have questions or anything.
It's good spatula. It's good Someone told me that your hands.
Oh, really? Okay, so apparently my sister just told me I never use gloves. I always use my hands, but she said that it's better to use gloves because your hands, your body temperature can be really warm, which I think mine is right now, and it makes it stickier. Okay, so I guess it's also more hygienic. So again, this can be done. You can put all of this into a KitchenAid mixer with the bread hook. I used to do that, but I just find that this is just more therapeutic and it's just easier for me to just like do it with my hands. It's definitely a workout. Like you will start sweating a little bit, which I kind of like about it. Like you're really putting like everything into it. Like I said about the spiritual, we're gonna go more into it. Actually, you know what? I'll let you guys wait a little bit on the yeast. Let me just talk about the flour for a second. So some people sift their flour. I do not, but my good friend Tila, who told me about all these different spiritual meanings, she sifts her flour. She thinks it makes a big difference. If you have time and if you have a sifter, then by all means sift your flour. So like as you're pouring it in, just use the sifter and put it in here. But the spiritual meaning behind flour is, if we were to sift it, is that we sift, it's just like we sift through our speech and our actions, we sift within ourselves to separate the positive and negative. So, you know, you want to get rid of all the bad stuff, so you're sifting through the flour. And just like flour is the largest part of the entire challah recipe, it takes up the majority of all the other ingredients. It's 5 pounds of flour. So too, we pray to Hashem that the largest quantity within us in our lives should be filled with bracha and Torah and simchas. So we really want the flour to represent like the majority of our lives. It should be only goodness. And then the salt, the 1.5 tablespoons of salt that we put in represents boundaries, because yes, our lives, we want our lives to be fully, almost like basically with all goodness and bracha and simchas, but we also need a little bit of salt in our lives sometimes so that we can, you know, remember like what it means to just like be a Jew and live our lives, and not everything's always going to go our way. There might be a little salt in your life here and there, so you have to just remember that that's just how it is for everyone, and Hashem has to give you a little bit of salt sometimes just so you can appreciate and be grateful for the rest of the sugar in your life. So yeah, salt always has to be with boundaries. It has to be balanced out, because if you have too little, sometimes it's not enough and it's too sweet. But if you have too much, it can ruin the whole recipe. So we want to make sure in our lives that we pray that we shouldn't have too much salt in our life, that it shouldn't ruin everything, and we should be balanced between those two. Okay, and then the oil. The oil is, actually, no, we'll do the oil after. Let's do this first. So let's take our mixtures here, our yeast mixtures, which again has the yeast, the water, and the sugar. Very simple, 3 ingredients. The entire challah recipe is like 5 ingredients. And let's pour it into the huge bowl that we have with the flour. But you have to take a spatula and make sure that you get all the sugar, because the sugar floats to the bottom. It sinks to the bottom and it gets stuck to the bottom. So you have to make sure you get all that sugar out and put it into the large bowl here, like that. So we're just gonna make sure we get everything in there. And once we have, let's put this here, show you. Once we have the flour with the yeast mixture in here and the salt, remember, so in here, is the yeast mixture and the flour and the salt. Let's put in our oil and vanilla. Pour it in there. And then we're just gonna start mixing. Again, we have our bag of flour right next to us that is halfway full. And we are just gonna start mixing with our hands like this. Just incorporate it all together, and then we're gonna start adding more flour. But I like to just squeeze it and mix it all together. Again, this is a time when you can be like thinking of good thoughts, like praying to Hashem. It's a really good time to like to not be stressed, just relax and enjoy the process. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna pour some more in. Just a little bit at a time, because you don't want to pour the whole bag, because you don't end up using the entire bag. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. It really just depends on the weather and the humidity. It's very random, but.
Do you have a recommendation if the bowl doesn't seem like it's going to be big enough to add more like a lot of more flour? What do you recommend? Can you put it in 2 bowls, or does that not work?
Are your bowls too small?
If it appears to be that it will be too small when you add a lot more flour.
Just try to contain it, like keep going like this and just like push. And then like just, you know, once you start moving together, hopefully we'll continue.
Got it.
And we're gonna add some more and keep kneading it together. This. Okay. And I like to do this round motion. I like to keep one hand on the bowl for like, what's the word? For a good grip, stability. Or a lot of people, what a lot of people do is actually wet a dishcloth, and this works for anything while cooking and baking. And you put it under the bowl, and it won't move, and it won't. So you literally will have it stable. So I like to go like this, and I take my right hand and I just do this circular motion like this over and over again, and I start to sweat. And I think, yeah, now we can add some more. Slow. Yeah. And then just like, you see that it's starting to form. It's not gonna be as sticky. Add more. I also like to play music while I do this. It's just more enjoyable. So, like this. Okay. I'm actually sweating. And I think this might actually, yeah, I need a little bit more. It's sticky. Woo, it's really hot in here. I'm so hot. No, wait, a little bit more maybe. I think that's it. Okay, I like to just get like the gloves. Yeah, I like it with the gloves. I do like to feel like. Okay, how is it coming for you guys? They're laughing at me.
I only see one people making a challah.
I don't know everyone who's not showing their faces.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Whew.
No, 2. I see 2.
More? I think I have to take my gloves off
I
now.
think you need more.
Yeah, a little bit more. Okay. I'm just gonna keep going. And you want it to be like a springy consistency. I'll show you guys. And you just keep adding more flour, but you go slowly, because if you add too much flour, it might be too tough. You don't want the dough to be too tough. You want it to be springy.
Everyone wants to know how you.
Yeah, how do you know? I'll show you. So
There's like no measurement.
it's usually the whole bag. Yeah.
Oh, so should we keep pouring?
No. Yeah. Hold on.
But you don't want it to be sticky. So
Yeah, you don't want it to be
now
sticky.
you need to add more flour.
Wait 1 second. I'm still mixing it. Okay, you can add more.
Flour makes it less sticky.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm pleased to say the bowl is big enough.
Thanks, Jill. Nice to hear someone.
No, we don't want a fan. You want a fan?
Oh yeah, I'll take a fan. I'm literally schwitzing. Ooh. My nice brother-in-law just brought a fan. Okay.
This is making me realize like how
much goes into this? Yeah.
but also how little I worked out during quarantine. Jesus.
I mean, it's not as hard as it looks. Like this is just this is the part of the challah that people are intimidated by. You just have to keep rolling the dough like this. Look, see, this is great dough. Yeah, you can use the machine, like I said, but for some reason I just started using it. What? Yeah, I don't know. I just like using my hands. I used to use the KitchenAid, the mix, because even if you do that, you still have to take it out and like do this part.
Yeah.
Some people use bread machines. I don't even have one.
Sometimes they even take out the dough at this point and put it on the counter.
So my sister said sometimes she puts it on the counter with some flour and she kneads it really, really hard. The counter has to be very clean for that. Okay, so I think we're good. I think we're good. It's not, otherwise it's gonna get too tough. Okay. I think you just need like 4 and something. Okay, so see, basically this is when you know that it's done. I kind of do this test. It probably could use a tiny bit more flour, but I like to be able to pick it up. And if there aren't pieces that are really sticking to the bottom, like this, it's a really nice, round, big piece of dough. Okay, let's add a little bit more flour. It's a little bit sticky. Okay. This. No, we're gonna do that. Okay. We're gonna make the bracha after this. Apparently you don't have to wait for it to rise. You can just, yeah, I thought you did. Okay. So we're gonna make the bracha in a few minutes together. This is a time when you should think about different Hebrew names that you want to pray for, whether that's someone who's sick, can't have children, needs to get married, for parnasa, for shalom bayit, like peace in the home, whatever you're looking for, this is the time when we are about to say the bracha that you can pray for that. Okay, so let us take, yeah, there's a prayer that you say after, right after you make the bracha. And if you can get it in English or Hebrew, I'll send it to you. After this, you're going to get all the instructions step by step and all the spiritual meanings behind everything. And I'm going to send you the prayers. But Jill, the prayer is in the email, no?
No, the prayer is not an email. It will be in a follow-up. And we actually have a question from Olivia. Can you unmute yourself? I would unmute you, but I have a dilemma with my hands, if you can see.
Can you unmute yourself, Olivia?
If not, then my computer is in for it. But you know what? It's worth it. Let's see. Whoa. Okay. Oh, it's too sticky to. Clearly, I need more flour. Let's see. Olivia.
It says host won't let me. That's what she said.
Okay, that's weird. And I'm trying. Oh, there you are.
Oh,
Olivia, come here. Oh my God. Olivia's my daughter, but I'm going to ask the question. She's over there and will come in the picture. So I have a question. So I've never made bread, bizarre as that is, because I'm a major cook.
mm-hmm.
But my mother was like a gourmet baker and made bread. How do you know if it's over kneaded? Like, how do you know when to stop?
So I think with challah, like I remember learning it from Rebbitzin in Michigan that I'm very close with when I was at the University of Michigan. She kneaded her challah for so long and it would like stress me out. I'm like, she's like, no, keep doing it more, keep doing it more, keep doing more. I'm not like that. Like I just kind of do it for a few minutes. I see that it has become like a really nice springy ball and I stop. If you keep kneading it, it's not going to do any harm. Like it will just get better, I guess, and fluffier. Vanessa, my sister, what do you say about
Because it adds air, right?
Yeah, there's no such thing as over kneading this dough. Not this,
Okay.
or other doughs that you can over
Right.
Yeah, you're activating the yeast, you're like releasing the air bubbles. So I don't think it's ever an issue to like.
Okay.
So after we have, can you just forward? After we have this, actually, you know what? We're gonna make the bracha first. So what we do is we take a piece of dough. Do you take the dough and then make the bracha? Usually, I make the bracha now. No, you make the bracha and then take the dough.
You have to put your hands on all.
So what you do, sorry, we have different ways of doing it, but what you're supposed to do, over the dough like this, you put your hands over the dough, and you make the bracha. The bracha is, you want to just type it in the chat. My sister's going to type in the chat so you all can see it.
Yeah.
She's going to type it, Baruch atah. Here. She typed it phonetically. Tried. Okay. So we say, we put our hands over the challah dough.
I don't think it came up, did it?
Oh no, it was a press.
Just happy face.
Okay. I'm fixing it. How do you copy here? Command V. Oh,
No, Command C is copy. And
it's
Command
not
V is
working. Okay, I'll just hit it again.
Okay, so keep kneading it. If you're, hopefully your challah dough is ready. If you have any questions about the dough right now, you can ask. We're gonna make the bracha together. Why do we make the bracha? Is because we want to remember the times of the temple when, hold on. We remember the times of the Holy Temple, the destruction of the Holy Temple, and back in those days, we would make challah bread and give a portion of it to the Kohen Gadol, the high priest. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our hands over the challah and we're going to say together, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam lahafrish challah min ha'isa. Then we take a little bit like this, kind of like a golf ball size. We wrap it twice with foil. Take a piece of foil, put the dough in like this, and you want to wrap it twice. And you put it, I put it on the stove top and I burn it. You want to make sure that it just starts to burn a little bit. You can put it in the bottom of your oven, or I like to just put it on the stove like this. Want to see, my hands are shielded, but I put it, you see that little ball, I put the stove on and I put the ball right on top so it will start to burn a little bit, and then or you can burn it in the oven, then you take it off. So what I do at this point is I actually take the oil, I pour some oil in my hands, and I rub it over the dough like this.
Oh, but if you're burning.
And then I put some, can you get this, the plastic wrap over the oil, no, the second drop. I did. No. Okay, so you take a piece of plastic wrap, put it over the dough. Once you put the oil, like you kind of just rub the oil around with your hands. Then you take a wet dishcloth, just put it under the water and wring it out, and cover the dough like this. And you have your dough with the plastic on top and with the wet dishcloth, and you set it aside. And since we're in not real time because we are in a cooking class, this is what your dough will look like. I made this dough about 2.5 hours ago. And this is what it looks like when it starts to rise. It goes over the bowl, and the yeast obviously was working. It was nice, healthy, active yeast. And we start to just knead this, our dough, again. So once your dough rises, like I just showed you, it's usually about an hour and a half, an hour. You'll see that it starts overflowing. You can just do a second rise, which means that you will just punch your dough back down and then set it aside a little longer. If you really do not have time, then you can start putting it into your pans right now. But really, for me, what I found after the years of making challah is that a great challah takes 3 rises. So the first one that you guys just did, you let it rise. Then you knead it again. Let it rise again. It could be anywhere from like half an hour to an hour. Then you actually put it into the pan, or you braid it. And then once it's in the pan, which I'm going to show you how I do it, you actually let it rise for another 20 minutes and half an hour before you put it in the oven. And that's when they become beautiful, fluffy, and gorgeous challahs. I think the last rise is actually the most important. So once it's set and it's braided and it's in the pans, that's when you want to let it rise for that last half an hour. Okay, so let me talk a little bit more. You guys are going to have your challahs rising, but I'm going to show you when, in the next hour and a half, 2 hours, whenever you start braiding your challah, I'm going to show you guys how I do a 4-stranded braid. And honestly, I'm just going to show you how I make it in these tins, which I only do from now on, because I figured out a way that makes it look so beautiful and professional, and it's so easy and takes very little time. But first, I'm just going to go over the oil and the blessing that we just said. So what's so significant about the oil? And I see that Tila joined us, and Tila is the one that just taught me all about these different significances last week. Up until now, I kind of just always try to have good thoughts while I'm making the challah and the whole process, and I like to think of good things and pray for good things and not be so stressed. And it really just brings out beautiful goodness and bracha into the whole. So for the oil, what do we learn about from the oil is that oil, we know that oil doesn't mix with water. So too, the Jewish people should always be like oil. They should be resilient. We shouldn't allow, we should be within the world and do things like everyone else, but we should remain true to ourselves and always remember where we came from. So, we are integrated into the world and into civilization and everything, but at the same time, we know that we're different, and we know that we have a uniqueness within us that only Jewish people can relate to, and we try to remember that, and we try to, unite together and just remain Am Yisrael and are just a strong Am Yisrael together. We also have lately, of course, been experiencing a lot of anti-Semitism. So oil kind of reminds us that we're different and that we have to remain strong and resilient through all these hard times and try to do as much mitzvahs and tikkun olam that we can do. I don't use honey in my recipe, but for other people that use honey, there's also significance, of course, of honey in your challah. And again, like I said about the bracha, this is one of the 3 mitzvahs that women are obligated to do. So this is the first one from the acronym Chana. This is Challah. This is my sister. Her Hebrew name's Chana. And so basically, challah, of course, we just said the bracha of challah. It's its own blessing. This is a very special thing. Many mitzvahs do not have their own don't even have a bracha, period. The fact that this mitzvah has its own bracha shows the importance of it and how really incredibly special it is and unique to Jewish women in particular. So like I said, this is to remember the Beit HaMikdash, and it's just really to just say what I've been saying the whole time. It's such a beautiful time to just turn something so mundane and simple, such as flour and sugar and water, into something so holy that we use at our Shabbos tables. And the most important ingredient of the entire recipe, like Tila told me, is time. And of course, this takes time, and you shouldn't be intimidated by it, but anytime we cook or bake, it does take time. It takes time to buy the ingredients. It takes time to prepare it, to actually make the dough, to let it rise, to bake it. So too, in our lives, we should give ourselves as individuals, time within ourselves and our relationship with other people, with our spouses, with our children, and with Hashem. So we need to recognize that the dough has a lot of potential and it can become such an amazing, great item. So too in our lives, like we have a lot of potential, and sometimes all it takes is time to reach that potential. So now I'm going to show you guys how I do my pretty famous baking technique that has become a really big hack on Instagram, apparently. People are loving it. So I like to use, you can either use round tins like this or oval. I've lately been using the oval ones. You know, for Rosh Hashanah, we like to make round tins, round challahs. So I take this tin like this. You can do any size. This is a medium size. I actually love the baby sizes too. They're so cute for little kids, or like if you only are a few people and you don't want to have a huge challah, you like to keep the baby ones in the freezer. Oh, Jill has the baby ones. She accidentally bought the baby ones, but they're really cute.
An accident.
Yeah. So what we do now is we actually take a piece of the challah. It's great. You want to spray the pan first with Pam. So you could, what I do is I actually lay out a bunch of these pans all over the place, and I just spray them first so I don't have to remember that part. I make it all like this. I'll show you the trick of how I do that, but let me just put this down. I put one like just at the top like this. Now I'm going to take another piece, This is how I make my ball. If you watch, I put my thumbs in the center and I just keep pushing everything inwards and pushing up. And this is how you make a beautiful, soft, like it's not so, you know, it's not like just taking a piece like this and having to roll the dough together. That takes forever and it doesn't necessarily always look good. I just pinch the top in like this, and you see how it comes out smooth? You pinch from inside, you push the inside. And then it's this beautiful, round, smooth. It kind of looks like a burrata that we just got. It looks like a filter dish also. So I like to take the corner like this, and I'm making a zigzag. What the zigzag will give is the effect of a braid when it actually bakes, and it's beautiful. So again, I take, you watch how I push inwards, and then go like that. You take the next one, you just want to squeeze it. I like to, this size, I think 4 is a good amount. The bigger size, I definitely like to do 5. And then for Jill's size, the baby size, you could just make really small balls, and they're really cute when you have 4 there. Okay, so now I have the 4th one that I'm gonna put right in there. And you see, it looks like a zigzag, like that. You see the zigzag? Like that. So this, I'm gonna set aside. Now I'm gonna keep going, do the rest, and once you finish the rest, you'll see that the first one you did gets all fluffy and beautiful. And then we're gonna make the crumb challah. But I'm also gonna show you guys how I do a 4 braid. You just put some flour down. I really don't braid so much anymore these days. Once I figured out this hack, I really.
Actually, someone, Celia wants to know, can you let it rise in the fridge overnight?
You can. So I used to teach in a preschool, and we always made the challah dough on Thursdays, and then we would put it in the fridge and then, you know, roll it out with the kids on Friday. So you definitely can do that. That's much, you want to do it. You don't want to put them in the tins and then put them in the fridge. You want to just put the entire bowl of dough, cover it well, very, very well, and put it in the fridge. And then you can bake it tomorrow. I don't ever do that just because I try to always make it right away, but it's definitely an option. You don't ever want to freeze the dough raw. It's better always to freeze the dough once it's baked. So you want to freeze the challahs once they're baked. So if you want to make a beautiful 4-strand braid, you just have to put 4 strands like this. Quickly, it's always easier when you put some flour. Oh, Sandra. Rachel, I have to jump off up. Hi, Sandra. Sandra Elstein is coming all the way from Mexico City. She was on this Zoom. Okay. I don't know if any of you know how to make a 4 braided strand. It does totally change it changes the whole look. The 3 braids don't ever look as beautiful as the 4 or 6 braided challas. Okay. One more. Sometimes I like to shake it out like this so it gets longer. Also, this is a time if you want to add raisins to your dough, or if you want to add chocolate chips, or if you want to add cinnamon sugar, this is the time where now you would stick the raisins in here, or you'd stick them in the balls or the chocolate chips, and then you just put them inside. So for Rosh Hashanah, we make honey raisin. I also buy those honey sticks. You know, they come in a plastic stick straw, and I cut the tip and I infuse. Like I literally take a ball and I stick the honey and squeeze it into the ball. It's delicious. So here we have 4 strands. And what we start is actually, what I like to say when it comes to 4 braided challah is you always start with the left, and that's like your, hold on. Your 4 strand. This is your like pointer guy. Like this is who is going to be doing all the moves. The left one, all the way on the left. So what we do, this is the motion. It goes over, under, over. So you take the left one, you go over the next one, under the one after that, and then over the last one. That's it. Simple as that. Then again, we start from our left guy, because our left guy is the one that we're moving, only one that we're actually moving around. We take the left one again, we go over, under the next one, the left guy's here, and then over the last one, and then we squeeze together. We just want to make sure. Then we take the next the left guy's over here, over, under, over, and then again, over, under, over, and then at the end when it gets short, you kind of just pinch them all together and tuck them underneath. Then we're just going to flip it around. Again, what we do, we take this one, the left guy again, over, under, over. You want to tighten it. The left guy, over, under, over. Left guy, over, under, over. Squeeze together.
If it doesn't look pretty, because the ends are always ugly, because like rip off the end and then folds it under, and it looks better if it's like not even. Sometimes if it's like,
if it's too lumpy. If it's too lumpy, my sister said sometimes it's better to just like see how you can just cut the end off here, and then basically just rip the end off. If it's not, if it looks too chunky, and then just squeeze it. Yeah, it does look a lot prettier like that. Thanks, Ness. And then this, you see how this end kind of looks like a big chunk? So you want to just take that part and just squeeze it like that, so it looks like a cute little. So these are also great. You can bake these, you could put this straight on the cookie sheet, but I would prefer how it looks when you put it right in here, because this will rise, and then it will look beautiful, because if you ever see those like Hamish looking challahs that are tall on the sides, like perfectly tall like this, and then have the braid on top, it's because they baked it in this. So I would do this, I would always bake my challahs either in a round tin or one of these tins, because it keeps it enclosed and it doesn't let it spread and like get all over the place. So far we have these 2 types. If you're also like, there's so many different ways to go. You can literally take, if you want to make, oh wait, let me just push it down. My sister is over here doing it. She's making a nice big one. This is also a time when people make babka. So if you want to turn this into a babka, what you do is you melt margarine and with chocolate. So you melt margarine and you mix it with chocolate, and you just spread it all over the different strands. You just put a lot of margarine and chocolate, or you could do cinnamon and sugar, and you just put it all over the place. And then you take 3 of these and kind of wrap them around each other. I'll show you. I don't know if you guys know, but babka dough is challah dough. It's basically just challah dough that you turn into a cake. If you want to make little what are they called? Little rolls, which I end up making a lot of them. This is what you do. You just take 1 strand like this, You roll it around your 4 fingers like that, and you tuck it underneath. You're kind of just tying this little knot, and then it looks like this little knot, you see? And they come out beautiful. They look like the cutest little, they kind of look like garlic knots, but they're not. They're like little challah knots. And they actually get really big. Like I said before, if you guys let this rise happen after you put it out, it makes everything look so much more beautiful. You can even do 3 of these knots. So if you want to make 3 knots, it will look really nice. It will be a really big challah that's like, you know, you can go so many different ways. I like to always have little rolls, because if you need an extra roll on Saturday for lunch, or if you're doing shal shudis and you always need another little challah, it's always good to have extra rolls in the freezer. You can also, like really so simple, you can just have so much fun with it. Roll out 1 roll like this, 1 long one. Just take it from the inside and just roll it into itself like this. Literally like a snail. Then you have a little cinnamon roll. So cute. And you can just put that one, you can bake that on its own, or you can put it here also. So really, you can have fun with it. It's like playing with adult Play-Doh, and you really can't go wrong. A really great hack is putting them in the tins so that they don't like, you know, become all wild and crazy and spread all over the place. Some people also like to take 2 strands. I'll show you. Any questions, guys? No? Hold on. So this is another variation of how you can do it. You can just take 2 strands together and twist them like this, literally like a twist, and then roll it into itself. And this will bake into a big, nice round also. And you can also, if you're making the braid and you realize that you really don't like the way it came out, again, you have that long braid, just twist it into itself and make it into a round braided challah. If you ever think you messed up, just twist it into itself. It always helps. And let's see what else. Okay, so far we have these here. I'll show you. My sister just did this one with the balls. You see the zigzag? You don't have to spend time making braids. It comes out just as beautiful. This one has 4 balls, but remember the zigzag. Okay, now that we kind of are doing all of we're putting them all into things, and we're gonna just show you what you do, what you want.
We have one more question, sorry. If you're, 2 questions. If you're letting it rise in the fridge, oh, you can see it, right? Yeah.
Letting it rise in the fridge, you still put a wet towel on top. Yeah, because you don't want it to rise out again. I would put it the same plastic wrap and the same wet towel on top, and then put it in the fridge. How long is the second rise? The second rise would probably be anywhere from half an hour to an hour and a half. It really just depends. Like what I like to do, especially if you're baking this on Friday morning, is I like to, first of all, get the dough done first thing in the morning. Like you can do all your Shabbos cooking while the dough's rising. The first thing you want to do, like sometimes I do this before I even drink coffee in the morning. I literally make sure the yeast, first actually, I'll put the yeast ingredients and let it proof on the open oven door the second I wake up. Then I'll have coffee because it gives you like a good 20 minutes to relax. Then I make the dough. But once the dough is done, that's it. You're good to go. Like you're done. So I let the dough rise. You can go out, run errands, do whatever you want. Like you can let it rise for 2 hours. Come back, you'll see that it's very big. You punch it down, you just knead it a little bit longer. Then you can let it rise for another half an hour if you're in a rush. If not, I would let it rise really another like hour or so, an hour and a half. You don't have to be stressed about it. Basically, the longer you do it, the better. Like it's never too long. So if you decide that you have to go like to an appointment, you can go to an appointment, come back, whatever it is. The most important rise, like I said, is the third rise. And you can even see, this is the first one I did. It's starting to like expand and look big and beautiful. And like the longer you let the third rise go, it doesn't have to be so long. The third rise really should be like a half an hour, and that's really it. But it really makes a huge difference, and you'll see it. You'll see how beautiful they look. But once, let's say they've risen, rose, whatever, you take an egg and you just break it in a little bowl. You whip it up, 1 to 2 eggs usually. And then you take a paintbrush thing, like a pastry brush like this, thank you. And you just put it on top of the challah. You just want to get it everywhere and make sure, because that's what makes the golden crust on top. If you don't have the egg wash on top, it will be like this very matted look of challah. You always want that shiny look. That's what makes it shiny. But what I love to do on my challah, after you put the egg wash, is you put the sweet crumb topping. So the sweet crumb topping is just 3 ingredients. It's flour, sugar, and oil. So I have some leftover flour in here, so I'm just gonna dump it in from what I just made, a challah dough. So I mix flour.
I think you have another question, unless you.
Oh, that's right. And I take the sugar. Just flour, sugar, and then oil. Mix the oil in there. I just pour it kind of all in. Take a fork. Or a knife, whatever you have, and just mix it together. And you'll see that, hold on. You'll see that this looks too dry right now. You need to add more oil. So you can see the crumbs actually, they don't look horrible. They're not bad. I would add a touch more oil. Basically, if the crumbs look too dry, you add more oil. If they look too wet, that means that you added too much oil, so you add a little bit more flour. Crumb consistency. You see this crumb consistency like that? This is what you want. So my sister just put egg wash on this challah. So what I do is I take the crumb and I literally just sprinkle it on top like that. That simple. And now that you're baking in these tins, it kind of contains the crumb. Even though I suggest that when you're baking crumb challah, you don't want your oven to get all dirty. Once the challah rises in the oven, it gets all big. You don't want the crumbs to get all on the bottom of the oven. So I like to put all of these tins on a cookie sheet before I bake them, and that's how I put them in the oven, all on one cookie sheet. It's actually easier to take them in and out of the oven. And that way, if the crumbs fall off, they don't go to the bottom of your oven and burn. They just fall onto the cookie sheet. It's like so much less of a mess. It's not even funny. So here we have the crumb topping, and my sister will also get the everything but the bagel or sesame, poppy seed people like to put. So that's very popular. I love my sweet challah, but I also sometimes want something salty and savory. People also will put roasted garlic. You can get so creative, like roasted onion. Yeah, so wait, my sister is just literally, she's taking the everything but the bagel set and putting all over on top. And it looks beautiful and smells great. And then, so this crumb topping, I just use it for everything, for all the challahs. And honestly, this one ends up being the biggest hit. Everyone always wants the crumb topping. The little kids literally eat the crumbs and leave the challah. So that's so far. Okay, let's see. Jan has a question. When buying yeast today, they had in the aisle, the refrigerated, do you have a preference? Refrigerated yeast. I did once use, I don't like refrigerated yeast. It comes in the cubes. I prefer to use the dry yeast. So the ones that come in the packet are the ones, this is the one I always use, the Fleischmann's dry active yeast. Okay, any other questions? I think we're good to go. I mean, I can't wait to see how yours come out. I'm putting it on the little one right now. They are gonna be delicious. If you guys can like tag me on Instagram or email Jill pictures or whatever, like I really, really want to see how they came out.
Make sure to tag, you can tag both Rachie Shnay, RACHIESHMAY, and at Yad Vashem USA. I'm not going to spell that, but yeah. Just tag us both, and we can't wait to share them all.
guys have any last questions or just want to talk about something or discuss anything?
Here, I'm just gonna unmute everyone. So let's see, so people can, let's see.
You guys have any questions?
Not letting me, sorry, one sec.
You don't even have to put anything on top, like my sister just said. You can just put the egg wash and leave it plain. Some people just love plain challah because if you're going to use it for like hummus or whatever dips you're going to put, people just want like plain, simple challah. But again,
What's your temperature and how long do you bake?
okay, that's a really good question. I put it on 375. It really depends on your oven. Like I've had like different ovens in different homes and apartment, like they're all so different from each other. You have to just see what works for you. But I do 375. It does take a while to bake. Do not bake it too high to the top because the top will burn and the bottom will not cook. So you wanna, if you wanna put 2 trays in at a time, I would try to put it like 2 notches below the top and then the bottom one like 1 notch above the bottom. So like it's not too low to the bottom and too high to the top. If you don't have an option, I would just bake it in the middle and wait. You know, I put it on bake, I don't put it on convection. And once you start baking it, I think it would be around, I like to check, even if it calls for 40 minutes, let's say, I like to check it at 30 minutes. You really never know. So I'd like just check to see how it's looking. If the oven's been on for a while and really hot, then sometimes it could take only 35 minutes, 35 minutes. Sometimes it takes 45 minutes to 50 minutes. It really just depends.
When you check.
A good indicator of when it's ready is you'll take it out and you literally can hear it. You can knock on it. You can make like a knocking noise. It's like a hollow, you know, you feel it. You just like kind of see that really golden toasty top. And sometimes I even will take the challah out and like lift the bottom with my finger just to check that the bottom isn't like so wrong, you know. You can just tell if it just lifts easily and you can just see that the bottom looks like springy, then it's ready. But it's usually around 40 minutes.
At what temperature you said?
375 and bake.
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, so I had different, I'm Heather actually. My daughter, Olivia, just vacated the premises. She's 14. Anyway, so she's baked challah. I, for some reason, never did. So I've had different challahs. Some are very like bready. And a woman in St. Louis used to make challah. I've never tasted anything like it. It tasted very cakey. So since you've baked a lot of different challahs, hers was amazing. A lot of people thought it was very cakey, but I loved it. How, like, is there a different way of doing something where it's going to get very like airy and bready, and then other where it's going to get more like a cakey?
Yes. So those 3 rises is what makes it really fluffy and airy. I've literally, the first few years that I was making challah, I started making challah like 15 years ago, literally. And it took so much trial and error. In the beginning, it was like, it would explode. Like my parents would make fun of me that it was like a bomb in the oven. Like it was just like an explosion. It was so heavy and dense and just like not enjoyable. And it would get so hard by the next day when you leave it out. This challah, this recipe in particular, like whatever recipe works for you, but the one that I'm teaching today is, it stays so fluffy and soft and delicious the next day, even Sunday, Monday, whatever. I mean, it stays fresh and like, I probably still have challah here left over from last Shabbos, and you can still like squeeze it and it's delicious and light. So I like that. I think it's very annoying if you make a challah and then Saturday it's hard as a rock, like nobody wants. I also find that it's less stressful because if I decide to make my challah on Wednesday, I don't necessarily, I don't have to freeze it for Friday. Like I could just leave it out.
Right.
One thing I forgot to mention is the importance, probably the most important thing with challah baking is serving it warm. Like that's like the #1 rule. And I didn't know that like years ago, but you always want to wrap when this comes out of the oven already, what you do, you can let it cool. I usually don't. I don't have patience. I just want to like get it over with because it's usually really late at night and I want to go to sleep. So I want to take it out of the oven and wrap it. So what I do, even if you're serving it the next day, you wrap it in foil right away. So you take a piece of foil, you wrap it, and you close it under, and you make sure it's tight. When you serve it Friday night or Saturday for lunch or whenever you're serving it, you keep the oven, if your oven's on or if your warming tray is on or whatever it is, you put it in the oven or on the warming tray and you let it just warm up for 10 minutes. Like all you need is 10 minutes for it to be warm, and you can feel it because it gets.
So when you finish to cook, if you're not serving it to the next day, do you keep it at room temperature or do you refrigerate it after you wrap it tight?
Never refrigerate it. I always.
Okay.
The only time you can freeze it. So let's say you decide like on Thursday you only want 4 challahs for the weekend, so you automatically wrap the others. What we like to do is wrap them in the foil that we always would anyway, and you put them in one of those large freezer Ziplocs. So you could probably fit 2 of these in one of those Ziplocs and just zip it, close, and put it in the freezer. And then you could take it, if you want to defrost it for the following week, you could take it out the Thursday night before. You could even take it out Friday. If you realize like 2 hours before that you didn't take out your challah, it's not the end of the day. It's not the end of the world. So you can take out your challah even 2 hours before, let it thaw a little bit, and then once you put it in the oven to warm it up, like it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. But we usually take out the frozen challahs Friday morning, I would say, and then just let them sit out, and then put them in the oven before you serve it. And then it's like, I bring the challah with the foil. We actually put these under the on the challah tray, like on the Shabbos table, the challah cover on top of the whole thing, and then we take it off because we want to sit until you.
That's my I'm sorry, guys.
Okay. So yeah, that really to me is like one of the most important factors in challah is like always serve it warm, because like it makes such a difference. People love warm challah, and even if your challah didn't come out as like fluffy and airy that time, just by warming it up, like it hides any mistakes or any like things that didn't work out for you that time. But it should always if you follow the recipe, this is like what I know it seems like a lot of steps right now, but it really is so simple. And once you get the dough set and done, which is really just putting all the ingredients and kneading it together, it's so simple, and it smells so delicious when it's baked in the oven. It's unbelievable. Like my entire apartment building smells like heaven. And then once it's done, it's just great. Like you really love having homemade challah. It changes everything, and like I said, it brings so much bracha into the home, and it's a time for you to, if you don't normally pray on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, like it really gives you an opportunity to like bring something holy into your home and like pray for what you want.
I have one last question for you. When you're doing your dough, when you're ripping your dough apart, okay, to make your balls or even the long strands, it's hard to see really how much is it? Is it like is it like a fist? Is it smaller than a fist?
Yeah, literally like what would fit this.
The palm.
Yeah, the palm. Thank you.
Right, palm of your hand. Okay.
I mean, it depends how, like if you have the size of Jill's little tins, which are like.
Yeah, I have these bread loaf
Those two,
so I would do little golf size balls for those and like just make 4, you know?
Oh, okay.
And then you'll see, because once it starts rising, they get a lot bigger. Like once the third rise happens.
And how long did you say in between the first and second and third rise?
Okay, so the first one is usually like an hour and a half, an hour to an hour and a half.
Right.
You guys will probably see in the next 45 minutes to an hour that it's really going to start getting big.
Yeah, mine is.
Yeah, I'm getting big.
It is. Oh yeah.
So it's so fun to watch because like you literally see it like popping out of the towel. And then so I would say like an hour to an hour and a half, and then the next you punch it down, and then the next one I would say like it really like I said it really just depends. It's never the same amount of time for me. It just depends on like my situation that day, like if I'm rushing or not. Sometimes I leave my house and I don't get home for another 2 or 3 hours and my challah's been rising forever. So it's not something you should stress about. Like you kind of should just like feel it out. If you see that it got really big, you punch it down, and then like half an hour later you're ready to put it in the tins, you know? So
could you let it actually do it? Like in other words, it's 9 o'clock. I mean, we have like another hour, let's say, for it to rise, and then make the balls and have it rise another half hour. Could you can't leave it overnight then at room temperature and then bake it tomorrow, you're saying? No.
If you do it, you would put it in the fridge, because you leave it room temperature, like it could get huge. Left it overnight in room temperature, no, right? Because then it starts to like ferment or whatever.
But if you put it in the fridge, you have to keep it all.
Yeah, so if you put it in the fridge, you have to take it out and like wait for it to not be so cold. Like wait for it to be room temperature before you break
All right. Anybody want to have the 2 a.m. Challah challenge?
This is like, I just felt like 8 o'clock was easier. 7 o'clock was like a very hectic time. And
No, it's all good.
We have
But,
a question actually, but from Hannah, we're trying to unmute her. Hannah, if you can hear me.
Oh yeah. Yes. Yep. I can unmute myself now.
Oh, hi, Hannah.
Hey, how's it going? So I guess I just want to make sure. So if I leave it in the fridge, like I'll put it in the fridge now overnight, then how long do I need to wait the next morning? Like I should take it out, let it come to room temperature, and leave it out for like a half an hour once I, do the balls or braid it?
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. Okay. You should probably let it rise again. Like it will rise when you take it out of the fridge, because like just by letting it be. So it will start to punch it down, and then like maybe 15-20 minutes later start putting it in the I know, and then you do the third rise, which is like once it's in the pan.
Okay. So then like as the oven is heating up, then I can do the third rise, and then they should be good to go. And then you said 375 for how long?
Oh, 375 for like 35 to 40 minutes. But like this is the time, like when I'm letting it do, let's say with the third rise, like when you put it in the tins, like that's the time when you make your crumb topping. Like before you know it, like it's ready to go. Like you clean, you do whatever you have to do. So yeah, look at our challas here. Look at this one. It literally, look how big it got.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Like that it rise in the tins, like.
So how high are you letting it rise? Like that's only been a few minutes. Like how high should it go before you know it's okay to put in the oven?
And these were like little balls. No, I could definitely put this in right now.
Okay.
And once I put it in, it gets even bigger. It's gonna be like huge and let me put this one in and we'll see. Vanessa, Ness, can you put these in for me, please? On the tray. So we put these on a cookie tray. So I line them up on the cookie tray. I actually usually can fit 5 because
so really, when do you think we can start putting our dough in balls? Like if we were going to do this tonight, do you think it'd be ready? Like when did we start? We started at 8, and then how long do you think it's been rising for?
Probably been rising for like, I would say 45 minutes. Yeah. How long?
Right.
Yeah, you could probably give it another 40 minutes, punch it down, and then get everything ready and you can start. But honestly, like if you really are exhausted and you're like pressed for time, I would just punch it down and then put it directly into the pans. You could also, and then you don't have to like, if that's the thing, like you really can just like adjust to whatever is needed. With the one this dough that I just made, I only made it at 7. I made it at 7 o'clock, right?
But you wanted to rise.
I made it at 7 o'clock. Hold on. And it was only an hour and a half, or maybe at 6:30. Maybe I made it at 6:30. I let it ride for an hour and a half. And then by the time this Zoom started, it was another half an hour. It was basically.
So that's why it's so big then.
And then I put it in the tins and it was ready to go.
Yeah,
and now,
right.
Like if you need that time, totally. Like I agree. I don't want to wait up till 1 a.m. So I'll totally just.
There's a question from Dana.
My sister said if you wanted to rise faster, make it hotter in your kitchen or put it near a hot place. So you can open the oven door, let's say on like 300 degrees, and just leave it on the open oven door. You will get really hot. Your kitchen will get very hot. I'm just warning you. But it will rise faster. So that's a tip. Thank you, Vanessa, for rising faster. But you see how we put on like this? You literally can just squeeze them all in here. And this way, I'm telling you, like, it makes such a difference. You do not want these crumbs on the bottom of your oven. And you just lift them all up together, put it in the oven. It's just such an easy way. That way, when you're not like taking them one at a time, it's like always a pain. So that's a really good tip also. So my sister's gonna put them in. Maybe you'll see a little.
When you make the larger one, whether it be a braid or a thing, do you put it in do you put it directly on the baking sheet, or you get it more like a lasagna? Is it like, what type of pan do you use when you're making the bigger one?
If I don't use those tins, if I just put it on
right, like it looks like you're making all small ones now, or a round one, or rolls. Like when you're going to make a regular size challah, when you go buy at a bakery.
Yes, then I would put it either straight on the pan, or I'll show you. Hold on, I'll get the huge tin that I have.
I was thinking too, like instead of the foil pan, can you use just like a regular like bread loaf pan maybe?
Oh my god, so totally. That's the thing, like you don't need to use these foils. I use my cake pans, like just my round cake pans when I do. Yeah. You can use the square, the small loaf pan, like you said. It looks beautiful. Yeah. And you can use literally anything that you have. It doesn't have to be these you don't need to use these disposable.
These seem really small compared to the challahs I normally buy in the store.
Yeah. We actually reuse these. Like we will wash them and reuse them over and over again.
Nice.
So this is the size I just made. For reference, I'll put it here. This is the size that I do make a lot when it's like a holiday, or if I want two big ones a lot.
Oh wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And there's that small size that Jill has. Jill, hold it up to your like chest. Yeah. The cutest little ones.
Oh, that is cute.
Really a lot.
Got it.
Let me see these have.
Hey Rach, the challahs that you just put in the oven, was that the second rise or the third?
So that they already finished rising. So like you put them in the oven after the third rise. So the third rise really just means that you put it in the tins and you're just letting it sit. Like you're not putting it in the tin and then putting it in directly in the oven. Like you have my challah recipe for this size.
Yeah.
Medium challah makes around like 8 to 9 challah. Makes a lot of challah. So like even the time that from putting the first challah in, like in the tin, to putting the last one, like number 7 or 8 or 9, it's gonna be a good like 10 to 12 minutes, and you will already see the first one looking so beautiful. So like it's not as long as you think it is, because you're just giving it another 10 minutes, and then you can already put the beginning ones in if you're like in a rush and you want to get them ready. But I like to just, also like it goes by so fast. You start cleaning your area, you're making the toppings, you're doing all that stuff, and then by the time you put the egg wash on, and then you put the toppings on, like it's ready to go in. You really just want to give it at least 20 to 30 minutes for it to form and like be like beautiful and like filled with air.
Do you see a difference? In other words, the fact if let's say we don't make it tonight, we put it back in after this first rise, we put it in, take it out, bring it to room temperature tomorrow, knead it, and let it rise. But you want us to let it rise. Like, is there going to be a difference in my first challah class to see if I push myself tonight to make it, to see the fluffiness, like putting it in the refrigerator, does that change the texture and the fluffiness?
From what I remember working in preschool, it didn't, and like the challah would be beautiful and big and fluffy. We'd take it out of the fridge, it'd be cold, and then we'd let it. It really was the same. I personally never do that. But I don't know if my sister does, but I personally never leave it in the fridge, just because I like to just like get it over with, and I'm like already just like once I'm doing it, I'm doing it. But it's definitely an option, and also if you have space in your fridge, like not everyone has space to put all of that.
So if I do that, just to think, once again, I'm sorry to repeat this question. So if I put it in the refrigerator tonight, when I take it out, bring it to room temperature first before I do the second knead?
Yeah, when you're that will like it's killing two birds with one stone, because as it's becoming room temperature, it's also rising. So you'll see that once it's risen, you will punch it down a little bit longer, then get your tins ready, spray your tins, make your topping. Like by the time you do that, put them in your tins and then let the tins, you know, sit for like 20 minutes. Like you're gonna, once you start doing this, there really is no like wrong, right way. Like you're just gonna, it's like you feel it. I told you, it's like,
right.
you get a feel of like how your dough's looking. For some reason, to me, it happens to me sometimes where you just feel that it's not rising so well. Maybe there was something wrong with your yeast didn't proof well. Sometimes the yeast can be dead or expired, which is like the worst thing ever. Cause like you don't, first of all, if you notice when you're proofing your yeast that it does not foam and it does not bubble, throw it out. It is not worth making the challah and like ruining all those ingredients for challah not to rise, and it just won't be good. Have you ever thrown out your yeast because it doesn't proof?
Yeah.
It's so frustrating.
I know.
So, but it's
Because it doesn't foam. You're saying it should foam or doesn't?
if it doesn't, it means it's not working. It's not active yeast.
Oh, okay.
It's like expired or something. So what you do is you just have to throw it out and start over. But like, if you see that that's happening, right? You just want to make sure that it's foaming. And if it's not foaming, first always try putting it in the oven with the oven open. Give it a lot of heat and like really push it to foam. If you give it like a good 20 minutes and it's not foaming, then
Dish it. Right.
I do have a question. I do have another question. It just occurred to me. So I've had both, the water challah, obviously, and the egg challah. How come you don't use egg in this challah?
So I said it, like I just connected with this recipe and I love the Rebbitzin recipe. This is, she's like an extremely holy woman in Israel was. And that was just it. And I didn't even realize, and I'm like, oh wow, this recipe doesn't have eggs. But people like it because it does taste like cake, and you'll see when you put this crumb topping, it's very fluffy and it tastes like cake with this like so delicious like streusel topping. But I feel like for some reason this recipe just doesn't need eggs. I do have friends that make the most incredible challah and it has eggs and it has honey. That's just not this one. But I don't know why I've just been like, I've been known for this challah. I used to sell this challah. So when I had like a different company, bake like cakes,
Right. Yeah.
people would beg me, and I didn't even want to sell it because I'm like, okay, like I'll just give it to you. Like, what do you like? You know what I mean? I make it every week. Like, I don't need to make it into like this crazy business unless like I actually have like production. So just like people would beg me to get the challah, and I would just give it out and to give it to my friends. But it just, you'll see,
It does taste like cake. It's amazing.
It's easier because I don't always have eggs on hand.
yeah.
Strange that is. I don't, so it's easier because you don't have to always have eggs.
You do need an egg. You don't need it
For the wash, but I'm saying you don't need to have to, right.
I'll tell you, the first time I ever tried Rachel's challah, I was at her house for Shabbos, and I literally was at your parents' house, and I took a bite, and I was just like, what is this? I was next to Laura. I was like, what is this? And then for Purim, I got home, and there was a little package in my lobby, and I was like, this is the best night ever.
Mishloach my note, I like to make those tiny challahs that Jill.
It's so delicious. Yeah.
Like 3 little balls in it, and I gave out like 2 challahs with a little like grape juice. That was like my Mishloach my note.
And some chocolate kisses, I think. Yeah.
So, okay, so you can also use a round tin. So if you have a round tin, this one's a little too, I wouldn't use this one, but I would get the deeper ones. You can use this one. It's going to get a little too high here. What you do is I would put 5 balls around, and then the center one is always the bigger one. So if you're making a round challah, make the center ball the biggest, and then put like 5 or 6 around, and it become like that beautiful like Rosh Hashanah looking round challah. You can make that whenever you want. It doesn't have to be Rosh Hashanah. So I like to make round also.
Oh, here we go.
Any other questions? This is so fun.
Oh, Rachel, would you be able to look at mine? Because I'm like a little bit nervous because the yeast that I used, I didn't feel like it was super foamy, but I wanted to follow along. So I wanted to like go along with you, but let me just show you mine. How do you think that looks?
Oh, that looks great. It's really rising, no?
Yeah, it is. So I'm like, phew, I was nervous there for a second. So do you think that'll be ready? Do you think I should give it a little bit longer?
Yeah. I mean, you can even, if you press it now, you can even realize like if you punch it down, like see what happens when you just punch it with your fist. You'll see that it will spring back up a little little bit.
I'm petting mine.
Oh wow, yeah, Jill's yours is rising. Also.
Yeah, yours is big too.
My baby.
I know.
All right, I'm a proud Challah mom, I think.
Wow, that. Oh my god, it looks great. You guys are all ready to just punch it down and give it its second ride. You might as well just do it now.
Yeah. And then
Because like it's not even sometimes it just goes so fast and like you don't want your challah like flipping over onto the table, so just like punch it down, you know.
So I'm punching it and kneading it now?
I just like take the sides, punch it down, and then cover it again.
Okay, it's happening.
It doesn't have to be like a whole production. Literally just punch it down a few times. That's it.
Okay. And then wait another half an hour,
And then
45 minutes.
you'll see it's gonna rise very fast and get like for the second time. So now you guys punch it down and you can even like just start getting your tins ready. See, like it seems
Oh,
like
wow. Yeah,
you
this is
guys-
cool.
it's
Okay.
like, it doesn't, that's a thing, like you can let it sit for a while, or if you're like rushing and you want to just get it over with. If it's rising, which yours have all risen really well, you can keep going.
Rachie, my brother is on, and he wanted to show you his. He's 15, so he's been following. Are you ready, Liam?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. His is like he's on FaceTime.
Oh my god, what? His looks like,
Yeah, he's like a professional chef. He loves to bake and cook.
wow, it
He's
looks so good.
been-
It's so big and fluffy.
Yeah. So it looks good. It looks like you can do it.
Good job, Liam.
That's a good job. He said thanks.
So you guys can just like think about how you want, if you want to do the crumb topping, if you want to do sesame or poppy seed or like you could just do anything you want.
You just
I feel like I need to experiment more. Like people put za'atar, they put I've had the most incredible like they roast garlic on in the oven. Put that.
and
So it's like they'll put the big salt rocks on it. There's just so many things like.
so if you do like chocolate chips, you literally just put it on top in the tin.
People do that. I think it makes it a little too easy because like you'll get like it will melt and then it will get all over your challah cover and whatever. I would put it in the ball inside, like just stick them in.
Do you ever put like cinnamon in the crumbs or?
Yeah. Oh, you could totally put cinnamon in these crumbs for sure. 100%. You could put a little drop of like vanilla extract in the crumbs. And you, what I like when I do cinnamon sugar, or I like to, like when I'm making the balls, I would just, after I put the egg wash, I like to sprinkle it with cinnamon and more sugar on top. If you want, you can even like put cinnamon inside the balls when you're making them. One to add.
So for the egg wash that you added to it?
The egg wash what?
For the top, it's egg wash, and then what else is in it?
Just egg wash. You just like and if you don't have one of those pastry brushes that I use, like this one, you literally just take a paper towel. I'm not exaggerating. Like this, a little piece of a paper towel. In the egg, this, like that, and then just rub it on top. You don't need this fancy thing. It works.
Got a better ball.
It works just as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited.
They smell really good in here, so they're definitely wow. They smell really good. But now I'm gonna have like 20 challahs because I have another dough that's rising also. This is my dough.
Nice. Yeah, when I opened it, I was confused. I was like, it looks so gooey, but it's just the oil.
Yeah. Got my challahs. I can actually bring you guys. Let's see. Smells amazing. Look, you see how they're getting all oh, actually, you know what, I'm gonna, so sometimes I see the fact that I just looked is a really good thing because sometimes I have to rotate them because the ones in the back will get really brown and you want to make sure that you have to just like put in the cookie. I'm just gonna do that. Like,
So for the like really mini oval tins, the balls that you did, like how, if you were to show with like your hands, how big were obviously pyramids are.
we'll bake a little bit. I'll show you guys what's over here.
Wow.
Yeah, so far this is how they look. I'm just gonna rotate turn it around and put the.
So
This
when
one-
you fill it up with the balls, do you try to do it halfway up the tin or 3/4? What do you?
The what?
Like the balls in the tin, when you try to fill it up, do you try to make it like halfway up the tin or 3/4, like in terms of the size of the ball?
Oh, yeah, don't put it so high up because it will get very like high on its own when it rises.
So it's half or
What? Hold on, sorry.
halfway or?
Yeah, I would do halfway, yeah.
Okay.
One of mine got so high that the crumbs came off and into the oven and it's like, it made a mess. But that's what happens. That's why you really want to try to not like have your challahs so high before you put them in the oven because they will get higher in the oven. So like if you put the crumbs on top and it's already really high, they're probably going to start falling off a little bit. So you don't want to make your balls too big because then it's just going to get too big in the oven. Dina, how's it going for you? What are you doing over there? Dana? Let's see. And then I think Nicole, I hope you're enjoying it.
Dana, I'll unmute you. I don't know why. It's so weird. Everyone's allowed to unmute. That's so weird. Okay.
Hi. Sorry, Laura's on the other line. I want to make sure not all the sound is coming in. I'm actually not making it today because I got home too late. But I wanted to watch and make sure I could see everything. I do have another question though. When you are making it for Rosh Hashanah to have a round challah and one with raisins, do you use your round tin and then you put the raisins in each little ball? Or is that one that you use one of your twisting methods?
So when I'm doing that ball thing where I go like this, I take the raisins in my hand and I stick them inside like that. So
Got it, okay.
But yeah, then you could put a few on top or like, stick them in really wherever you want. If you're going to make the braided one and then like roll the braid into itself to make a round one, you put it in the logs.
Uh-huh. And for Rosh Hashanah, since it's kind of coming up relatively soon, do you do anything with honey as well in your challah, or you don't change the recipe?
You know those honey sticks that people like give out and you get
them
or wherever?
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know what to do with them. I snap that like that. I open them and I stick it to the ball and literally infuse it. Like I push the honey into the ball and it's delicious.
But then you do that and then you're not still like making that dough ball. You infuse it with honey once you finish and made the ball and then you set it into the tin.
So you even can just set it in the tin. You'll see all the balls ready and it's like in a round, beautiful, like it's in one of these and the ball literally just go around and stick it in each ball. And like in the, around and the sides, even if you just put it on the bottom, it's really delicious.
Awesome. Okay. I'm going to be doing this tomorrow since I obviously couldn't do it tonight because I really want fresh challah for Shabbos.
Oh, well, I'm going to have a million of them. So
Well, if you come into the city, just drop one off my door, man.
I know. I'm getting out these bottles tomorrow. I still have like in the freezer from last week. So, any other questions?
I'm rewriting all these instructions so I don't forget.
I'm gonna send everything in an email. Jill will send it, but I'll
Rachie, thank you so much for taking the time to really.
I know, this is great.
Really phenomenal.
I feel very honored. Jill has been like, we have to do this for like, I don't know how many years. So I'm happy it finally happened.
Yeah, I'm so happy.
Message me or email me if you have more questions. I want to see how they come out. Like that's like very, very exciting.
And if you don't want to like post them, just email them to me and I'll share them with Rachie, and I'll like make a collage of all of ours and send them to everyone.
Yay!
Amazing. Thank you so much, Rachie.
Thank you guys.
Thank you
Shabbat
very
shalom.
Your first gala?
What?
Hannah, is it your first gala? So is it as hard as you thought it was, or intimidating? Now, once you do it and you kind of get used to it, you're going to be like, okay, it's not as bad as everyone. When I remember when I was like 6'15", the first time I made it or something, I was like, oh my God, it's like, I can't believe this person makes her own challah. Like, it's crazy. Like, that's insane. But it's not as, people are very impressed by it when they come to your house for dinner and you have homemade challah, but it's really not as hard at all. It's not as hard. Like, it's much harder and more annoying to like make other things, that's for sure. But obviously it's very easy to just buy a challah too, but I'm telling you, it's worth it. Okay, so thanks guys. It was so fun. And
Thank you.
all good Shabbos, and you should only ever bring blessing and brachas and simchas, especially with the challah. And I hope all your prayers came true, whatever you prayed for.